Yeah, I guess it's quite exciting now. It's just getting into that point of the year where we're just going to be looking at prospects and that sort of thing. And that's the next question I wanted to ask you guys. I mean, I mentioned it before we came on, but on Sunday morning I tweeted out that I wasn't really sure about Najee Harris at 18, and that seems to be the guy that every Dolphins fan is fixating in on now. It started as Devonta Smith, but there's a bit of debate about whether we should take a tackle or not at 3, or do something else like trade out. But Harris seems to be the guy that the whole fan base is unified on. I can't really see us going for him at 18, to be honest. I think there's other needs which there'll be like better players available at that point. But I think I'm in the very small minority that thinks that. So, Lee, I'll flip it your way. What do you reckon? Is it wrong to be fixating on this guy? Is he our kind of saviour, or what do you reckon?
No, give me Najee Harris. Make it happen. I've got reason for it as well. I've started going back and watching all of Alabama's tape from last year. I'm not through it all, but I'm trying to get through as much as possible. I mean, I'll be all through it in the next couple of weeks. My big thing for Najee Harris is if you want the wide receivers to play better, draft Najee Harris. If you want the O-line to be better, draft Najee Harris. Because if you draft a tackle, we still have no run game. Our running backs are adequate at best. And, I've been saying that all year. It's a position that could be upgraded. I mean, you could come out of this draft with 2 guys that actually end up supplanting what we've got, and it wouldn't be a surprise. I think adequate at best. I think if you can turn up on a Sunday and you can say, we have a guy who can run the ball, defenses have to respect it more than what we've had in the last couple of years. And I think it takes pressure off the O-line. It takes pressure off the O-line in regards to they don't have to make gaping holes that you can drive a bus through. The running back's going to help them. The running back's also, if there's not a hole, going to make smart decisions with regards to bouncing it to the outside. Najee Harris always seems to be going forwards. He's one of those guys that's always falling forwards. And I think it also helps the wide receivers, which turn, by extension helps Tua. So I think you get the most impact by drafting a Najee Harris. It's not just about him. I think it's the impact he has on the offense as a whole. But that's just for me. I know a good friend of mine, Murph, will be listening to this and absolutely screaming because he hates taking running backs in the first round. And I understand it, and I'm sure other people are the same. For me, if you think that running back has a short life in the NFL and no one likes giving a running back a second contract, give him a 5-year contract in the first place. And then we'll worry about it in 4 years. We'll draft another one if necessary, rather than have a 4-year contract and draft one in 3. I mean, that to me, I feel that we're in a position where if we did that in the first round, I would be over the moon. And my preference with the first pick is to actually try and trade back to see if we can pick up some more capital. So.
Yeah, no, all fair points. I guess I'd kind of counter by saying get very similar, not quite as heavy running back in Javonte Williams. My only knock on Najee Harris for me was the kind of, he's always looking for the home run, and having watched a lot of the tape, it's kind of like, there's a slight gap, just hammer into it, mate, take the 5 yards and we'll go again. But he's looking to the outside, he's looking to cut back inside. A bit too much of that Le'Veon Bell stuff, which is just like everyone tries to do it now. So, yeah.
And very much like Kenyon Drake, former Alabama player, always, forever trying to hit the home run. I definitely respect that point.
Yeah, sweet. Si, any view from you early on? Are you looking, obviously everyone's loving a bit of Harris, but you think that's the way to go?
Listen, from a team perspective, if you want to select Harris and you want him on your team, then choose him at 18. It doesn't really matter when you get him, and obviously the probability of you having him on your roster increases if the earlier you take him. So why not use pick 18 on Harris if he's a player that you really, really desire and want on your team? From a fan perspective, I can understand the clamour for him because he's an elite player, and fans naturally want to see elite players on their team. It's happening with Devonta Smith for the number 3 pick. You've got that same clamour for that fans want to see him with that number 3 pick, if indeed they do pick at 3. And I think that's just the natural reaction and desires of us as fans. We want the elite and the skilled players to be on our teams. Combine that with the fact that fans recognise draft needs as well, and holes on their roster. Then they're more knowledgeable now than they ever were because of the resources available to them in terms of knowing all about the players. So I think there's, yeah, exactly, yeah. So I think there's an element of that as well, is that fans understand the team needs. So you combine those two factors and you get 2 + 2 = 4, and 4 is Najee Harris and Devonta Smith. So I think that the reason that fans want those is fairly understandable. And the other thing I was going to say was fans as well do tend to favour those skill position players. You don't hear anybody talking about Panay Sewell, for example, who could quite feasibly be a really solid pick at number 3. And clearly, he's not going to fall to 18, but at 3, he would be a great pick if that's what they choose to do. And you don't hear that as much on social media.
You'll hear it from me. that's me. You'll hear it.
So again, I just think it supports the view that fans want those elite and the skilled players, and that's what they tend to focus on more than anything else.
Yeah, go on then.
I mean, the other thing that I wanted to touch on is I've seen a few, way too early mock drafts going around. Let's not forget there's going to be trades and free agency before then. Things are going to change drastically. But I've got a lot of people saying, well, there's no way you can take Devonta Smith because Jamar Chase is better. It sounds lazy to say that we want Bama guys, but you take one thing off the table by taking guys that played with 2 already, and that's chemistry. And we've seen how detrimental chemistry can be to a team many times before, but we saw it ourselves with Mike Wallace. That connection with Ryan Tannehill just wasn't there. Didn't matter how hard you work on it. They just didn't sync up. They weren't 2 guys that worked together. And you take that off the table when you draft players that have already played with a guy. And I think that, especially in a year like this, where there's going to be some unknowns, you're not going to get to meet so many players face to face, that for me holds more water. I'm not for a minute saying take Devonta Smith at 3. Actually, I say I'm all for trading back and doing something else. I'd actually be happy to take Jalen Waddle a bit later on, to be quite honest. But for me, I would happily come out of this with 2 Alabama skill guys, because we know chemistry is not an issue.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I completely agree. I think I've just got such a question. Quick spoiler: we're doing over on the 14 Yards College Football. We're doing a guide this year, and there's 5 of us breaking up the kind of positions, and I've got wide receivers and quarterback. So looking at these guys quite a lot, but I just can't. For me with Smith, I just can't get past the size. I know he's showing it on tape that he's a fantastic player for Alabama. You can't deny that, but he's also making catches when he's got like 10 foot of space around him, and that's not even an exaggeration. I just don't want to see him get absolutely hammered by Devin White when we play the Bucs next year, and then just walk off the field crippled in half.
I mean, you've only got to see, you don't want to hold size against someone because it feels unfair, but at the same time, look at Jakeem Grant. He does have problems with getting hurt. He gets hurt more than some other wide receivers. He also gets open a lot. He's also harder to find because players in the NFL are that much bigger. It's a real factor. I don't think it's unfair to have it as a massive consideration when talking about Devonta Smith.
I mean, size is important. Size does matter, so to speak. I remember
not doing the Manscaped adverts anymore. So.
I remember listening a year ago to Simon Clancy's analysis of DJ Metcalf, and he was concerned that because he was so big and muscular, that he was going to suffer with injuries in the NFL, and he was a bit concerned that was going to plague him, and of course that hasn't materialized at all, has it? He's been a great player and now is one of the top wide receivers. So whilst you can see my point here is that if there are concerns over size, it doesn't always mean that that's going to be the case. That those concerns are going to materialize.
Yeah, I think, you're absolutely right. And obviously, if the Dolphins think that that's not a problem, then that's absolutely fine with me, because that connection is absolutely fantastic. And if he can create separation with that long stride that he's got, then like he'll just be unstoppable in the league. So if the Dolphins are happy, I'm happy. But that just me at the moment is a massive question mark. And I have got Chase slightly above that, with some question marks around Chase getting separation as well. So a couple of things there. But yeah, go on, Lee, finishes off on this bit.
Sorry, I don't want to get too far into draft stuff because we're going to have weeks to talk about it. But the other thing that kind of gets me as well, when it comes to the NFL draft, is when you talk about linemen, and you see all the analysts that say he projects great at a different position. Based on what? Based on a gut feeling, because it often doesn't work out. It works out maybe 50% of the time. Well, at that rate, we can predict it, and we're here talking about the Dolphins because it's something you know about, but we're not being paid to be analysts. It's one of those that gets me a lot. And you see, they say, "Oh, he's playing right tackle, but he'd be a great left tackle in the NFL." Well, we see how many great corners in college struggle to be corners in the NFL, and wide receivers, they struggle to play the position they're playing, let alone switch altogether. I mean, I like it. If you want a left tackle, take a left tackle. You want a right tackle, take a right tackle. That's what they do. Just let them do what they've trained to do. For years.
Sure, that'll be the main conversation around Sewell as well, with the link with the Finns as well, won't it? Because off the top of my head, you probably want him rather than Jackson at right tackle protecting Tua, but both of them fundamental left tackles in college. So that's the big debate we've got to come there.